Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's decision to run for Senate may have been an elaborate plan hatched by Republicans to lure her into the race. We'll explain. It's based on some unbelievable new reporting. And some legacy media outlets are reporting that this show was snubbed by the Golden Globes. There was no snubbing. Well, there was a snubbing, but it may have gone the other way. We will set the record straight today. And then later in our second hour, longevity expert Gary Brecka is here by popular demand. Everybody wanted him. We've got him today. He's a fascinating man. All I can say is you're welcome in advance. You're really going to enjoy him. And we start with another super enjoyable friend of ours, Andrew Klavan. He's host of The Andrew Klavan Show on the Daily Wire and author of the new novel, After That, The Dark. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. It's that time of year again, and the clock is ticking. Want to give a gift they'll really love? Luckily, there's still time to get your hands on Firecracker Farm Hot Salt. That's right, hot salt. You've heard the buzz because it's incredible. This small batch product is genuinely special and made with love. Delicious is an understatement. It has the perfect amount of heat and flavor and elevates everything you put it on. Plus, it comes in these sleek, laser-etched stainless steel push grinders. The presentation alone tells you someone cares about what they are doing. And they do. I've met the owners. They're great. They have a ton of different flavors, gift sets, and you'll be very happy to know you are supporting a small family business that is also now available at Black Rifle Coffee locations. But it's made in small batches, so when it's gone, it's gone. With Christmas right around the corner, they're going to sell out. To get the widest selection and score a discount, head over to their website, firecracker.farm. Do yourself a favor and get your best gift shopping done today. That's firecracker.farm and use the code MK at checkout for 10% off your order. Andrew, welcome back.
Thanks a lot, Megyn. It's good to see you.
You as well. Okay. So I want to talk about Hollywood for a minute and their weird, bizarre system of values or lack thereof. And I'm going to kick it off, why not, on this Golden Globes thing. Because what happened with the Golden Globes was they added a category for best audible podcast, basically best podcast. And they automatically put in the contention for the award, the top 25 podcasts. And we were one of them. Ben Shapiro was one of them. Joe Rogan was one of them. Tucker Carlson was one of them. Candace was one of them. And then it was brought to my attention by someone connected with this whole system that if you want to actually be considered, you have to go talk to the Golden Globes people. Like some voters out there who will determine whether you actually get the nomination and then, of course, whether you win. So like you'd have to go out there and do a little dog and pony show, like choose me, choose me, I want world peace and I look great in an evening gown kind of thing. And of course, the whole thing was so bizarre because number one, I had zero interest in their stupid awards. I've made the point repeatedly on this show that I came up under the Roger Ailes era where we at Fox were not even allowed to submit for any kind of an award. And I'm talking about it like a respected award, like a Pulitzer. Forget Golden Globe. And he just didn't believe in the system because he knew it was run by leftists and that it was for leftists and that it would be leftists making the decisions. And either they would ignore you and not give it to you, or worse yet, they would actually give it to you, which would mean you're making inroads with the left, which is bad, which is a bad sign. You're probably like, I feel like Marjorie Taylor Greene is going through that right now. Her newfound acceptance on the left is not really a great thing. It's her career on the right seems to have ended. So anyway, I've literally never submitted for an award in any context and have no desire to get one. So there was obviously zero chance I was going to be doing the dog and pony show or doing anything to get this Golden Globe. And instead, what we had our producers do was withdraw our name from consideration. So we, in order to stay one of the ones who was considered, you had to just fill out your name and your show name and I don't know, one other very basic identifying piece of information. And we refused. So it was no mystery to us that we would be not actually nominated because we told them thanks, but no thanks. Now all the headlines, because they hate conservative media, is snubbed. No, we're literally one of the top podcasts in the country, but we're not interested in awards. Now others on the list did it differently. Our mutual friend Ben was very open about the fact that he campaigned for it. He wanted it. He took out a billboard in Times Square. He did the Dog and Pony Show. He wanted the Golden Globe. He didn't get nominated. He didn't even get the nomination. Instead, they nominated, and by the way, Joe Rogan, who blows all of us out of the water when it comes to ratings, did not get the nomination. Like, it's ridiculous that you would do this award and include Mel Robbins, who spends her day spewing a bunch of bullshit you'd read in your fortune cookie, and not Joe Rogan, who is the undisputed king of this medium. On the first year, you're offering the Golden Globe for it. So to me, all of this just speaks to the overall false god that Hollywood is for some people, provides for some people, and how the whole thing is rigged. It's not an honest system. When you see somebody win an award at the Golden Globes now, this isn't just the best actor or the best picture. This is someone who's prostrated themselves in front of these Hollywood weirdos whose opinion, I guess, means something to someone, but not anyone I know. And they try to parlay that into you believing this is quality. And it explains some of the disconnect between what we see as movies and books and other things that we like, and what the left, which controls those industries, the arts, tells us is good and valid and worth having as a part of your media diet. Now, you are as immersed in all of these worlds as anybody I know. You've literally written some of the screenplays for the biggest movies we've had in America. You're a very successful, prolific author, so you write books. You're also in the podcasting world. And there's probably other accomplishments beyond that, Andrew, so you're the perfect person to ask about all of this. Your thoughts?
Well, I totally agree with you in terms of values, but not necessarily in terms of effect. When you say you weren't snubbed, you only had to leave your name in the running, and you would have been snubbed. Certainly, there is no way that you were ever going to be nominated for a Golden Globe Award or any other award that I can think of offhand. When back in the 2000s, I wrote a book called Empire of Lies, which took a very honest look at the clash between Islam and the West. And when I put the last period on the manuscript, I walked, this is absolutely true. I walked into the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, and I said, can you live with the fact that you're never going to win another award? Because I'm the recipient of multiple literary awards, the highest awards in my particular field. I've won the Mystery Writers of America Award twice. I've been nominated 5 times, I think, maybe 6. And I knew when I wrote this book that I was never, ever going to win an award again. And I also knew that my reviews would turn. I was a recipient of glowing reviews in hundreds of venues. And after Empire of Lies came out, I got one review in a major venue, and it called me a right-wing lunatic. I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like a right-wing lunatic. So you're absolutely right. Anybody who's looking at these things and thinking that they're fair or that they're going to maybe come around and like us, I don't know what Ben was thinking. Maybe he just wanted the publicity of going after it. But this is a problem on the right, is that we talk about the New York Times and how dishonest it is, but the New York Times comes along and offers to do an article about us, and instead of telling them to pound sand, we agree to it, and then we get absolutely ripped to pieces by their passive aggressive hostility toward us.
Although I did an interview with the New York Times, and I did not get ripped to pieces, and it was very fruitful. She and I had some very challenging back and forths that I think exposed the Times. Yeah. Not me, but the Times.
Yeah, well, you're lucky if they quote you, and that does happen too. I agree with you. However, the thing about awards, the thing about the arts in general and entertainment in general, is it's kind of like sex. you experience sex in the moment as fun, but over the long term, it's a very deep spiritual experience that's going to have an effect on your life in a very rich and multiple ways according to how you do it. So if you treat sex lightly your whole life, you're going to end up in a bad place. Whereas if you treat it as part of commitment and love, you're going to end up in a much better place. And the same thing is true with the arts. We experience the arts as fun, entertainment, but the way the arts affect us over time is going to have an effect on our society as a whole and on some people's, especially young people's, souls, as a whole. And I think the problem with the right is we just haven't paid enough attention to this. But we have no awards that we run until Trump took over the Kennedy Center and started to give Kennedy Center awards from the right. We have none. An author starting out is never going, if he's a conservative, is never going to get the kind of recognition that a left-wing artist is going to get. Artists like Tom Stoppard, one of the greatest writers of my lifetime, just maybe the greatest writer of my lifetime, was virtually canceled because of his non-attacks on Margaret Thatcher, and ultimately gave an interview saying that he was kind of a socialist, really, which I don't believe at all. I think he was a Tory to the day he died. And I think the same thing is true of Cormac McCarthy, who I know was a conservative, but never said so because he was a guy who could easily have won a Nobel Prize for Literature, but never would have had he come out. We have not built the parallel infrastructure to celebrate, appreciate, and study the arts that the left now dominate almost completely. And the result in the immediate sense is not that big. It's just like the effect of a one-night stand might not be that big in your life. It's the long-term effect of having this incredibly powerful spiritual instrument, which is entertainment and the arts, washing over us with left-wing garbage day after day after day. The Golden Globe Award nominated that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, which basically, what was it called? One Thing After Another, One Battle After Another, which is basically a celebration and romanticization of left-wing violence, true left-wing murderous violence. And that got multiple awards. We have nothing to compare or compete with that. And the billionaires among us, who are not that many, but there are some, don't do anything to fix that. And it needs to be fixed. I understand and admire you, Megyn, for blowing awards off and saying these awards are worthless, because they are worthless. But they wouldn't be worthless if they actually judged people on their quality. I mean, you do one of the best podcasts out there. As you know, I'm not flattering you. You know, I think this. And yet you will never win an award. And that's wrong. And it ultimately takes from you something that is of value, which is the prestige of your peers and your colleagues. And you are a tough person, so you understand that, just like I'm a tough person, and I understood it when I gave it up. But I realized that I was giving up something of value. And I think that knowing that I will never win those prizes, that it's very difficult even for me to get on the lists that the New York Times sends around for its bestseller list, because that's a very rigged bestseller list. It's very hard for me to get on those. Those are things that do affect your career and do affect your prestige and do affect your pleasure at what you do, and affect the audiences, because I'm somebody, I am a very good novelist, and my novels are very much appreciated by the people who read them. But breaking out of that right-wing audience to spread these novels, which I think would be appreciated by a lot of people of good values, is very difficult. It's very difficult to do. So I've been really fortunate. I'm one of these guys who has had this wonderful career in spite of my having a big mouth and saying what I have to say. But it shouldn't be this way. That's what it comes down to. It should be better than this, and it would be better if we would participate more and fight back more.
Like, all I could think when they were talking about, how I needed to go out there and sit with these people and try to razzle dazzle them was, I would rather blow my brains out. I don't have that in me. I literally don't have that in me. Nor do I have it in me to sit at one of their little tables around their movie stars on the big night and act like I care, like I wish for their good approval.
Yeah.
I don't. It's too important to me to excoriate and mock them endlessly and ruthlessly, which they give me fodder to do every day. Once you start getting sucked in by these losers, you lose your own ability to stay empowered and speak honestly about what they do, right? Like I can't be corrupted by them. I won't be corrupted by them. No 2 pieces of silver, right, in the form of a Golden Globe is going to do it. Make me compromise like my ideals. And you see this all the time. You know, you see, I don't mean to pick on Jake Tapper, but like that picture of him at one of those Hollywood lunches. It was Jennifer Aniston and Jimmy Kimmel. And I think, what's his name? Bateman was there. Justin Bateman. It's just like, it's not a great idea. It's really not. We're supposed to keep an arm's length from them, from politicians. I mean, think about, like, you know, Trump. Yes, I endorse Trump. And I've seen Trump at a couple of events, and we're always very friendly. But he is also at arm's length. I don't go hang out with Trump. I am not going to the White House, and we're not chums. And he knows that too. Like, there's a little friction between us, as it should be. You know, like, it's fine to do like the occasional party, this, that, I'm not saying that there's anything inappropriate with that. We do that no matter what president is in office. But like, making a politician or making Hollywood or people who are that out of touch your BFFs as a journalist is corrupting. It's corrosive. And it really is undermining to the very job that you mean to do. On the same front, it was just announced today that I guess Lauren Sanchez has bought the Met Gala. More accurately, Lauren Sanchez Bezos has bought the Met Gala.
Okay.
And
gee, I was going to do that. I'm sorry, she got there before me.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what you can do when you marry one of the richest men in the world. And it was just announced today that Beyonce, Nicole Kidman, and I think Venus Williams are going to be the 3 co-chairs of the Met Gala this year, because they're all super relevant in our culture. They're all super high fashion. No, none of those things. Beyonce's past her prime. Nicole Kidman, she's a great actress, but what's she doing there? She's not known for her style. She's like known for her acting and her weird marriage to Tom Cruise. She just got a divorce from the second husband after him. And Venus Williams, like, okay, she was a great tennis player back in the day, but like Coco Gauff would be a lot more relevant today, or Sabalenka, or somebody who's like been playing over the past 10 years in a more, I realize that Venus and Serena tried to do a doubles thing, but I'm just saying this is not the height of cultural relevance anymore. And what are they chairing? They're chairing an event at which all those people who will be sitting in those Golden Globe chairs will parade themselves in $100,000 gowns to a dinner where the plebs have to pay 40 grand a table to show up. Or maybe it's 40 grand a seat. It might be a ticket, more than that for a full table, just so that they can rub elbows with this so-called elite. I'm going somewhere with this so-called elite. And who are the elite? Like, right, as I say, people who are largely irrelevant or past their prime, who are hosting it, and also on the guest list now. Used to be different 10 years ago. But also, I'm just going to give you an example of what that town looks like one day in the news. All right? Take a look at Ariana Grande right now, of the music industry and now also an actress starring in Wicked. Let's check in on how Ariana, who was raised on television on Nickelodeon, then parlayed that into singing, now is a Hollywood actress, is doing. She is very clearly anorexic. If she's 90 pounds, it's a lot. She looks like you could snap her in two with like your fingers. And she's having some sort of weird, I don't know what it is. Sexual, I don't know, relationship with a they, them, her co-star, Cynthia Erivo, who also looks dangerously thin. Then we take a walk down the street, and there's Andy Dick, comedian, actor. This is sad, but it's in the news today. Literally on the street, reportedly having OD'd. Like, this is him, just this week in the news, I think it was yesterday, spotted after having overdosed like a homeless person on the streets. Take a look at Kelly Osbourne, also reality TV star, daughter of Ozzy and Sharon. I love Sharon. But She is, to say waif thin would be to grossly understate the matter. She is unrecognizable. She's on the shot or something, but you can't even recognize that it is Kelly Osbourne. My whole point in saying all this, Andrew, is this industry is not to be admired. It's certainly not to be emulated. You shouldn't be spending your money to get a table with these people. You should not aspire to have a child go into this industry. And you should never feel bad that this industry doesn't recognize you for your life accomplishments. And I say that to you as Andrew Klavan and to the audience writ large.
Well, yeah, of course this is true. This has to do with a mistake about the arts that came about during the Romantic era. I mean, it's quite a long time ago, where the arts went from being a piece of work that was either good or bad on its own to being the production of this artist. I don't look at myself as the creator of things. I look at myself as a guy who receives information and puts it out on the page. I think most really good artists think of themselves as a conduit to their art, not as the creator of their art. But at some point, we began to think that the artist himself was important, and that he was the guy to be elevated. I mean, I think all the time about people like Whitney Houston, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, with one of the most incredible voices I've ever heard, dead in a bathtub after being abused by her partner, and then on drugs and all this. Philip Seymour Hoffman, probably the best actor of his generation, dying after injecting heroin to himself. So these are obviously broken people who have been given a great gift, and that gift is that something comes through them that we all benefit from and admire. And yet, when you put that on them and you admire them, you're just making a fundamental category error. You're just basically saying you're looking at the wrong thing. You're admiring the wrong thing. And I never asked anybody to admire me. I mean, that would be a big mistake. But yeah, I think that the work I do is good. It's really good, and I think that sometimes it would be nice to have the recognition that I think all artists want at some level. I always used to explain to conservatives, artists really don't work for money; they work for love. And if they don't get that love, they basically just walk away a lot of times. And that is a problem we have with conservatives and traditionalist artists. So look, you're 100% right. There's an old George Cohan musical called "I'd Rather Be Right Than Be President," and I too, like you, would rather say what I have to say and speak the words I would say what I had to say if I sold one book. I mean, I would never, ever change the things that I want to put down on paper. And you can talk to the people who work with me. I hope I'm a pleasant enough person in general life. But when you try to make me say something that I don't agree with, I become incredibly prickly and unmovable. And I've gone through multiple editors and agents, just making sure that I got to have the career that I wanted to have. But again, I've been incredibly fortunate and durable. And I just think about a lot of people, a lot of actors who have all the talent in the world, or writers who have all the talent in the world, singers who have no chance because they support Trump, or because they believe in the Constitution, or they believe that being white isn't a crime, or whatever it is we're not supposed to believe in these days. I was watching Sydney Sweeney, who had made the beautiful move of basically showing herself to be, at least her family, to be Republican, and refusing to turn away from a jeans ad that she did, which was absurdly attacked as white supremacist. It was nonsense. It was blue jean supremacist. And recently she sort of backtracked. Well, why did that happen? Because
I know.
Because her movies are being...
We just had a debate on the show privately about whether that was her backtracking or bending the knee, which I maintained it was. And my executive producer didn't feel as harshly about it. But I was like, no, she's changed the messaging. They got to her. Hollywood, her agents, her PR people, the casting directors, the money men, like producers who actually could control her presence in a film. They got to her because her messaging sounds very different from, I think when I have something to say about that, people will hear. Now, I'll just play it, Andrew, and I'll let you take it. But she sounds different. And do we have it, you guys? Or is it just on, it's written? Oh, crap. It's going to take me a while to find. My team will send it to me. Because it is, I agree with you, it's alarmingly close to a genuflection to the left. Keep
well,
going.
look, she just was in 2 movies that tanked enormously, and they got terrible reviews. One of them, she played a sort of overweight boxer, and I thought, look, nobody's going to the movies to see Sydney Sweeney be overweight. We're going to see her be beautiful, and that's just one of those things that actors have to live with. Their body is their instrument. Unlike a writer who can write about anything he wants, an actor has to be who he or she is, and she's a beautiful woman, and we want to see her be beautiful. She's also an enormously talented actress. She's a really talented actress. And so her movies bomb, and now she hasn't got the power that she had before. She's not riding on top of the world as she was before. And yes, I'm sure you're absolutely right. She's got managers and agents and friends and family and, colleagues saying, just, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say, but just go out and say you're against hate. And of course, what a stupid thing. Who's in favor of hate?
Here it is.
Okay, but
here it is. She said, this is to People magazine, which, by the way, I don't know if people know this, but People magazine is woke and fucking annoying. Do not deal with People magazine.
I would say that's fair.
Do not buy People magazine. Truly, they hate conservatives. And I know people who are over there. They hate conservatives. Okay. She says this to People magazine. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm always trying to bring people together. I'm against hate and divisiveness. In the past, my stance has been to never respond to negative or positive press. But recently, I have come to realize that my silence regarding this issue has only widened the divide, not closed it. So I hope this new year brings more focus on what connects us instead of what divides us. It's that part of, but recently I have come to realize that my silence regarding this issue has only widened the divide, not closed it. So to be clear, I'm against hate and divisiveness. And I really think that's what that's as close as she will get, I guess, to telegraphing, I don't agree with the Republican crazies who backed me, and I'm not a white supremacist, and I don't like the people taking my jeans ad as a comment on GENES any more so than I explicitly wanted them to in that ad. She was better off with the first answer.
Yeah, but think about this, Megyn. I just want to put it in human perspective. I mean, think about Chick-fil-A, who came out against gay marriage, and not in a vicious way. Not I hate gay people, but I think marriage is between a man and a woman, and stood and held to their guns and became, because of that, one of the biggest franchises, fast food franchises in the country, much bigger than they were before, despite the consistent attacks of the left. But every time they went to open a restaurant, no matter where it was, when they went to open a branch of their franchise, no matter where it was, the left showed up and frequently caused enough trouble to have the municipality refuse them the space that they needed to open a restaurant. And ultimately, they started to change their mind. Ultimately, Sydney Sweeney lives off the love of the people. The people learn about her movies through the reviews and through word of mouth. The left has incredible energy and incredible dedication to making sure that word of mouth does not spread in her favor. And she cracked. Let's guess. So I'm guessing she cracked. And
she cracked.
But
totally.
But look, I mean, I'm sorry. Part of what she does depends on people wanting to see her in pretty dresses, wanting to see her show up. I mean, the last time I talked to you, she had just shown up in a vaporous dress that you could see right through. I mean,
and you hated it.
I did, but I like ladies. I prefer ladies who are genteel. But still, the thing is, this is part of the profession that she's in. Just like part of my profession is signing books or going out and chatting with people about my books. These are parts of the things that you do, and the left is dedicated to destroying you. I have a friend, wonderful guy. If you haven't had him on the show, you should. Cyrus Nawasa, who is a rebel director who made a film called The Road to 9/11 that has never been released on DVD, despite the fact it was one of the most popular TV movies ever put out. But it's never been released because it showed that Bill Clinton was partly responsible for not killing Osama bin Laden and therefore opened the path to 9/11. And he didn't do it because he didn't have any political capital, because he'd been banging at girls.
Controversial.
Yes. So because it was put out by Disney, by ABC, they've basically banned it. They've taken it off the air. Recently, Cyrus made a hit movie called Sarah's Oil. It's a lovely little film. And the New York Times attacked it because it's about a little black girl who inherits some land on which there's oil, and her struggles to get the oil is based on a true story.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's a lovely film. And the New York Times attacked it because it glamorized fossil fuels and because the little girl had a white friend who was protecting her. And that was their attack on it. So in other words, the New York...
Oh, they can't stand the white savior. The white savior is a trope that must be avoided at all
But
terms.
think of the small-souled, small-minded approach that says no work of art can have ideas in it that offend me. That's essentially what they're saying. I watch works of art that I think are quite good, that actually have a left-wing point of view. Even though I disagree with their point of view, I admire the artistry that's involved. Sometimes Sean Penn, a great actor. I've never stopped saying what a great actor he is. He's a lunatic. He's a left-wing lunatic. But they're not going to do that. We're going to do that, but they're not going to do it. And all I'm saying to you is that, of course, you're right. You're right morally. Your values are right. You have proven yourself willing to stand up to them. I feel I have proven myself. Look, my Hollywood career vanished because of my opinions, and it was a 7-figure career some years, and it just disappeared. I thought my electricity had gone off. My phone stopped ringing so fast. So I have proved myself willing to stand up to them. I'm just saying it should not be this way. And it is this way because the right doesn't respond to their intensity, because they understand the long-term deep importance of the spiritual business of the arts and entertainment. And we don't. We think it's just just a little thing that comes and goes, a bagatelle that comes and goes. And we don't really put the money, the effort, or the intensity into it that they do. And because of that, there are a lot of right-wing artists who never make it. Because they never get a chance.
Am I wrong? But I think that Zachary Levi is in Sarah's Oil.
And he's great in it. It's the best performance he's ever given.
Yeah,
he's terrific. Yeah.
He's amazing. But he was on the show just yesterday, literally 24 hours ago, saying he does feel that he has been, quote, gray listed.
I'm sure he has.
He didn't say full blacklisted, but gray listed in Hollywood. I mean, the guy was Shazam. That's like a huge, huge role. My kids are like, you had Zach Levi? They're so excited about this. But he's also a very serious, dramatic actor. And he's such a nice guy, too. He's such a sweetheart. And he's not even a conservative, Andrew. Like, he probably have a lot of disagreements with you and me on the issues that we talk about. He's genuinely a libertarian on, like, politics and government role. And he's left and right on various issues. Depends on the issue that you run by him. He's Christian. He is Maha, which, by the way, is in some ways more controversial than MAGA, right? Like, if you talk about vaccines with that, certain group of the left, you will be excommunicated, which is also ironic because Hollywood is land of the granola crunchy weirdos who should be, at least some portion of which should be in Hollywood just by default, just by the sheer numbers game. And they should be open-minded to this, but they're not. So but to your point, he didn't come out, if you will, as any of those things until after Shazam and he was famous. So it can still be done to him and is being done to him.
Right.
But to your point, like a young person who's got their Christianity, their conservatism, their Maha affiliation on their sleeve early on, forget it.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. You say you like RFK Jr. and what he's doing with vaccines, right? You're done. Not only will there not be any awards, there will be no roles unless you get cast in something being produced by the Daily Wire. Like literally.
Yep. And the whole system in LA, I know people who have said to a famous producer, I want to pitch you an idea. And the producer has said, well, I'm driving over to the Hillary Clinton fundraiser. Why don't you come with me and you can pitch the idea? That I'm never going to get that offer. That is never going to happen to me. No one's ever going to say that to me.
That could be so fun for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing is, people don't understand, Ted Cruz once asked me, what's something you know that nobody else knows? And I said, what I know is they don't care about money. And this is the thing. Everybody's always saying Hollywood is all about money. They do not care about money. They care about prestige. They care about awards. They care about getting the girl. They care about all the things that artists go into their profession for. And the studios care about money, but they'll always find the money. They'll always find ways to make money. So, you go into a meeting in Hollywood and the first 10 minutes are very likely to be, isn't Trump an idiot? Isn't Trump a bad guy? I hate this Trump. And you are sitting there trying to get a job or trying to sell a piece of material, and you have a choice whether you're going to say, well, yeah, or nod, or go blank-eyed, or whatever you want to do, or whether you're going to say, actually, I'm on the other side, which is always what I said, which explains to you where my Hollywood career went. And yet, to me, look, my whole business is words. If my words don't mean exactly what I want them to mean, I'm nothing. That's the way I look at it. I understand.
I agree with you. I totally agree with this, Andrew. It's like, it's one thing. I've changed my position on many issues over time, but I've never been insincere about how I feel.
Right.
I've never said I feel one way when I secretly feel the other, ever. I really don't think I'm capable of it. And I do feel like when you do that, that's selling your soul to the devil. That's the type of shit that's with you on the deathbed if you do it. Like, you really have to stay away from
Listen,
that.
I know a lot of guys who did this. And, my wife wishes, my beloved wife wishes I would learn to keep my opinions to myself, but I never have. But I know a lot of guys.
Doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys in Hollywood who made the opposite decision. And you only had to look in their eyes, never mind their deathbed. You only had to look in their eyes to know that you never wanted to be that guy. You never wanted to live that way, because the hollowness and the fear and the sense of lost identity are as visible as anything, as visible as the computer in front of me. Like the thing is that is your soul, and that is your soul. And again, with your soul, a lot of times things that seem meaningless in the moment, like a lie, pile up and ultimately rob you of who you are. And
It's a lack of courage. It's like the lie, it's not great to lie, but everybody does it.
No,
the lie is told because of your cowardice.
because of what you're afraid of.
God, that has to be the
Yes.
worst. Like a white lie is something we call because you're doing it to spare somebody's feelings. You don't feel the need to hurt them unnecessarily by being totally honest about how you feel about whether their butt looks big or they look good in that dress that they already have on and don't have the ability to change. But a cowardly lie, that really is something that will haunt you. It reminds me of the movie Defending Your Life, right? Where Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep wind up in purgatory. And what determines whether you move on or not is like how many days of cowardice you had. That's what they're looking back at. Not really even being a bad person, but cowardice. And he's got tons, and she has like none. She's literally rescuing people out of burning buildings as they look back at her days, so she's clearly going to move on. And Albert Brooks, in typical fashion, has, 12, I think, and it doesn't go well. It's such a funny, clever movie. But yeah, that would be the worst. But wait, I do want to say something positive. We saw another clip this week, and listen, he's established and maybe not seeking a bunch of these big movie roles anymore, but Kelsey Grammer has gotten, I think, bolder with his politics as he's gotten older. And so is Mel Gibson, but Mel Gibson's been canceled and has the freedom that comes from being canceled. It's great to see him ripping all of his thoughts politically, but he had something traumatic happen to him. He was very, very canceled. Kelsey never was, and he's just sort of grown into it, I think, with age. He was caught on camera, this is credit to Nick Balassi, and here's the exchange. Watch here, SOT 20.
Hey, Kelsey, can you tell us what you think about Trump's job performance so far in his first term or second term?
I think he's great.
What issues are you most concerned about that he's doing well on?
Well, I think the economy's actually going really well.
I think so too.
And we'll see what happens in the next year or so. What I always love is when the Democrats start talking about affordability, you always know they're going to charge you twice as much and spend 3 times as much.
By the way, his first answer was, I think he's kicking ass. The reporter stepped on him a bit, but that's what he said. That's courageous, Andrew.
Yeah, John Voight too. You can't stop these guys. But again,
Sly.
Yeah, and the thing is, these guys are older, and I'm not not knocking their courage. They've been pretty open about who they are for a long time. But it's the young guys I worry about, because I've seen some of the actors we're talking about right now. I've seen them take young actors aside and say, keep it down if you want to keep your careers. They know that when you're young and you don't.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about that. Forgive the interruption. Why can't Schwarzenegger is obviously also a Republican. He's not a Trump-publican, but he's a Republican. Yeah. Why can't Sly Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Mel Gibson and some of these other guys get together and form their own production company? Like, I know the Daily Wire makes some films that are more conservative, but I'm talking about like mega Hollywood connection people who have the juice, the connections, and the dough to fund films. They don't even have to be conservative films. They just have to uncancel the canceled conservative actors. Just let them act in anything. Yeah,
it's tough because a lot of artists are not businessmen. I mean, I'm not a businessman. I do a thing. I'm a guy who does a thing, and I do it. I dedicated my life to it. I gave everything to it. But I'm not somebody who could build a business. I'm not somebody who could put that together. And maybe that's true of some of these guys too. And Sylvester Stallone is a really interesting example because he won a Kennedy Award, and some people were making fun of him because he was in a lot of Rambo 8 and Rocky 12 and all that stuff, which I heard him along the way. I heard him on TV kind of complaining about that, because the funny thing about Sylvester Stallone, he has that voice like he's a palooka. He sounds like he's not that bright, but he's in fact a very, very talented man. And he made one of the classic American movies. There's not that many people who can say that. Rocky is a classic American movie, and some of the other films that he's been in have been quite good, and some of his performances have been excellent. He deserved that award. It's funny, he deserved that award, but he's not somebody who's popular with the elites, and I think all of these guys understand that's the case. And who knows? I mean, maybe they're just artists, and artists are not always the best businessmen. Most of us have agents. Most of us have publishers. Well,
that's actually one of the challenges to news people getting into the podcast lane, because most of us never had to run a business. Right. We were just, quote, talent. Again, I always laugh that that's the word that the talent used to describe itself. We'll call ourselves the talent. But they're used to just being talent, and they don't know how to run a business. So it's an obstacle. Now, I do think all of this is relevant to what we should be rooting for on this purchase war for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, one of the original and big 5 Hollywood movie studios, like still cranking out films that we see in the theater, not direct to streaming, not direct to the little box in your living room, but like the theater experience. And it makes me think of like Tom Cruise when Top Gun Maverick came out, and he was like, I make movies for the big screen. That's what I do. I make big movies for the big theater. That's my craft. And I get it. Like, there's almost like not in a negative way, but like a snobbishness toward like going direct to streaming. But for these big Hollywood stars who are used to audiences having the experience that you have in the theater with the surround sound and the huge screen and your fellow Americans around you, some talking too loud, some laughing with you, some crying with you, in any event. So now we have a deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers. Netflix has got more money than God, and they're acquiring Warner Brothers for $82.5 billion. Warner Brothers agreed to sell to Netflix. Netflix is terrible. It's not to say I don't like some of its movies, and I do watch Netflix, but their ownership is disgusting. They're far left, and they're destroying America. I mean, just to take a quick walk down that lane, they're in the news today for some movie called Queen of Coal, and I do mean Queen. Here's the soundbite from the trailer that we cut. Watch.
If you say you're a woman now, then you'll have to do women's work. And this company assigns different jobs to it.
It's not what they're doing to you.
No one can take away what you've earned, Carly. You earned it. It's yours.
I'm a minor, Violet. A minor.
Miss Carbone, inspired by the true story of Carlita and Rodriguez, I think it said. Okay, so here's the story. It's based on a true story of a trans woman, meaning a fake woman, who dreams of working the coal mines. But in a town steeped in superstition and patriarchy, Carlita, as the real name is Carlos, must fight to earn her place underground. And it stars Lux Pascal, a trans-identifying man, which again means a man who's pretending to be a woman, who's the brother of an existing Hollywood star, Pedro Pascal. And this is what they want to show us, how coal miners are a bunch of scumbags who didn't immediately accept a man pretending to be a woman underground in the coal mines. That's what Netflix is devoting its time, money, and attention to. Concerned Women for America, per the Daily Wire, just released a report on Monday finding 41% of children's content on Netflix contains LGBTQ themes.
Yeah.
41, nearly half. Okay, so this is not a children's film, but I'm just talking about the children's films. Almost half of them have LGBTQ content. Oh, so that's Netflix. So I'm not rooting for Netflix to amass more studios, more control over filmmaking or artistry whatsoever. And on the other side, you have Paramount Skydance, which is trying to get Warner Brothers with a hostile takeover, with a much better bid that it far exceeds $100 billion. The shareholders will make more money. It could close in less time. It's more likely to get approval from the government because the Netflix deal would require the number one streamer, Netflix, combining with HBO Max, which is the number 3 streamer, I guess I'm told, that could wind up in an antitrust problem that would lead to the disapproval of the merger. But Paramount Skydance has no such issues. But what I'm being told by the left-wing media is we're supposed to hate Paramount Skydance and its bid, Andrew, because Jared Kushner is putting money into that deal. Qatar is putting money into that deal. I think either Saudi Arabia or the UAE, one of those, is putting some money into that deal. And so because we've all been critical of some of those Middle Eastern countries over the years, and because Kushner, of course, everyone has to hate him, even though he just reached peace in the Middle East for us, we're supposed to object to that one because we don't want Qatar controlling CNN, which would be acquired as a Warner Brothers property as part of the Paramount Skydance acquisition. This is how fucked up our media is.
If Qatar ran CNN, it would be a more honest station than it is now. So I'm not worried about that at all. And yeah, Paramount's run by friends of Trump and people who are Trump sympathetic, and that's why the left doesn't want him to do it. And you're absolutely right.
But I should say all those Arab countries and Kushner have all said they would have no governance role whatsoever in the newly formed
of course not.
No.
Neither would Trump. I mean,
just want to make money.
And Warner Brothers, look, is a very, very powerful acquisition because it has one of the greatest libraries. I mean, maybe second only to Disney. Going back to Casablanca, as well as the Batman franchise and the Harry Potter franchises, has everything. So Netflix would be already an enormous streaming powerhouse. Would become the one thing that it is not now, which is also have a studio from which it can make big screen pictures. So it would be an enormous leap in power for Netflix. And again, all I can say about this, I mean, is, and you're really right about Netflix, by the way, the incredibly woke, management. They had a Black Lives Matter during the George Floyd hoax. They had a Black Lives Matter section that I boycotted because I never wanted to press a button.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I never wanted to press a button saying Black Lives Matter and supporting that organization. And as a result, was missing some of my favorite actors who happened to be black and were on that thing. I just wasn't going to press something that said I supported Black Lives Matter because I knew they were a communist organization. Yes. So you're right. This is a tremendous leap of power for a tremendously woke company, and they could have gone with Paramount, but they were friends. There were friendships and relationships involved between the Warners and Netflix. But again, all I can say to this is, where are we? I mean, why is it that we have to fight to take over things that have been built? I mean, most of these companies, not Netflix, but most of the old companies were built by fairly conservative people. They were built by businessmen who wanted to make money, and to make money, they wanted to please the audience. I mean, the Jews who built, Hollywood were happy to make a film in which Bing Crosby played a priest because they knew there were Catholics out there that would pay money to go see the movie.
It's a great film.
Oh my
Bells of
God,
St.
it's a
Mary's.
great film.
One of my faves.
The other one is what's the one before that? Bells of St. Mary's, the sequel, Going My Way. Going My Way is
Going My Way.
even a greater film. So they're both great, though.
My fave is Christmas in Connecticut, 1947.
Also great film. So
Bing was not.
That was a business, because they were businessmen. They wanted to please the public. But in the same way that we put the artists before the art, in the same way we admire the artists who don't deserve our admiration and ignore the art, which sometimes does, in the same way, the Hollywood now wants to instruct us as opposed to entertaining us. And there's going to be a lot more of that coming out of Netflix. And if they have that much power, the power of owning Warner Brothers, they're just not going to care whether conservatives like them or not, because they will find some way to make money. They will have so much power. The only way to beat these guys is to compete with them. You're right, the Daily Wire is trying, but it is really hard. It is really hard to do, and I think it needs a bunch of people doing it. You can't bring out an occasional conservative movie because your odds of having a good movie are small. You got to do 50 movies to get one that's even decent. And that's the thing that so far, none of us has the power to do, but we should be working toward it. And maybe Paramount will do it. Maybe Paramount is better off not getting tangled up in Netflix. Maybe Netflix would swallow it. Maybe this is actually a win for us. It's very possible.
I know. I mean, I'm definitely rooting for the Paramount side to win. I don't want Netflix getting more powerful. And I think when like Netflix, if they could get back to doing normal films and normal shows, great. But they've proven who they are politically and otherwise, and even behind the scenes. Like their founder, he's a terrible man.
You should
I'm going to
keep
take
an
a
eye on Apple TV though. They're doing some good work.
Okay, I will. Stand by. Coming right back. More with Andrew Klavan after this. The holidays are always full of surprises. Here's one. When it comes to religious freedom, you might be surprised to learn which states rank low on the Religious Liberty in the States Index. The First Liberty Institute, the nation's leading law firm protecting religious freedom, just released this index, and it ranks all 50 states on how well they protect your right to live out your faith. The results? Full of surprises. If you have not heard of First Liberty, they're different. They've been on the front lines defending religious freedom for nearly 30 years. When your faith comes under attack, they are first in the fight. And they do it without ever sending their clients a bill. That's right, they do not charge a dime. They have a win rate of over 90% on their cases, including a 9-0 record at the U.S. Supreme Court. This Religious Liberty in the States Index is an independent, peer-reviewed study that gives you the real picture of religious liberty across America. Want to see where your state ranks or others do? Get your free copy today at firstliberty.org/Megyn. That's firstliberty.org/MEGYN. Andrew, Jasmine Crockett has announced that she's running for U.S. Senate. She wants the seat currently held by Republican John Cornyn, who is running again, but is vulnerable. And she wants to win the Democratic primary. And today there's an extraordinary report out from Notice and NOTUS that has the following headline. An astroturf recruitment process. National Republicans propped up Jasmine Crockett to push her into a Senate run. This is the backstory behind how they got her to believe she could win. And when she announced she was running, Colin Allred, the other contender in the Dem primary, immediately dropped out and said it was because she entered the race. And Beto O'Rourke is out, and it's basically hers for the taking. There's one other guy she's running against, but he doesn't have the kind of name recognition she has. This is on the Dem side. She's going to get crushed in the general, which is why the Republicans did this, and now are bragging about it. Here's the report. Republicans' Senate campaign arm has actively worked behind the scenes to encourage Crockett to jump in, believing that she will be the easiest opponent to beat. Just a month ago, there was grave concern among Republicans about the Senate race, where incumbent John Cornyn's running for re-election. Democrats were running two formidable candidates, and Cornyn was caught in the middle of a bruising three-way primary. The National Republican Senatorial Committee put out a poll in July with Crockett's name included because she had not been included in any of the previous polling. That poll showed her as the leading Dem in a hypothetical matchup. It was exclusively leaked to the Daily Caller at the time, showing her with 35%, Colin Allred at 20%, Beto O'Rourke and Joaquin Castro at just 13%. The fact that she was included in that poll was no accident. Those Republicans made sure she was. Then they started circulating it and making sure that her name got into other surveys. And she was she looked like she was, quote, surging in the primary. The Republican Senatorial Committee then worked to amplify those polls and is taking credit for helping, quote, orchestrate the pile-on of those polling numbers to really drive the news cycle and the narrative that Crockett was surging in Texas. And then, sure enough, Jasmine Crockett responded by, not to this article, but to her polls by saying, the more I saw the poll results, I could not ignore the trends that were clear. And now they say they are guilty, happily, of what they call an astroturf recruitment process because they wanted the other more threatening Democrat candidates to drop out, which they now have. And they have their very favorite opponent, Jasmine Crockett, to stare down whoever winds up with a Republican nomination. This is exactly what the Dems did to the Republicans in the primary process for the presidential race and other races that were happening, like Senate races. And even in the midterms before that. So turnabout is fair play.
Absolutely. It's perfectly good political practice. Politics isn't beanbag. It's a tough game and people play it tough. And as you say, the Democrats funded every chucklehead Republican they could find to throw them up there.
Yes.
The only problem with it is it can backfire. I don't think it is in this case. I don't think she has a chance in Texas. But still, it can backfire on you when you think somebody is so radical. You remember, I'm sure, all those lefties when Trump came down the escalator and announced that he was running, just saying, go ahead and run. We want you to run. Oh, my gosh, how wonderful. It's going to be so much fun to watch you get destroyed. Who's crying now? And I think that is a problem with this strategy. But frankly, I'm glad the Republicans are this savvy and smart. They're usually such buffoons when it comes to dealing with the political landscape. And this actually gives me a little bit of hope that they know what they're doing. I think in this case, they did the right thing. Yeah.
Right? So she first had her weird little campaign announcement yesterday with just her sort of staring into the distance and Trump insulting her.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does get attention. So on that front, it's a win. But he was just saying what a low IQ individual she was, which is really probably not great, something you don't want to reinforce. Now she's out today with a rapper who appeared at a rally she was at, trying to rap about how great she is as she just sits there trying to look cool. Do we have that, Steve? Yes, we do. Stand by. Here it is.
She ain't never scared and she ain't never been. Who else willing to go toe-to-toe against the president? I can't wrap my head around someone who votes Republican. She advocate for feeding kids. They protect the ones touching them. Trump invading his own country with an army. What a joke. We remember Pearl Harbor by illegally bombing boats. But y'all thought we wasn't gonna do nothing but they think again. They only trying to scare her out of running cause they think she win. Listen, thought I told y'all we ain't never scared. Now
you get the flavor. She's sitting there trying to look like badass and just doing her nails.
If I knew you were going to play that stuff, I wouldn't have come, Megyn. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. You've done nothing to deserve this.
I just want to say, but Congress to me has become this weird collection of crazy women. I mean, is that just me? I don't want to be too sexist, but it just seems like every crazy woman in politics is in the House of Representatives at this point.
There's a lot of crazy in there.
I feel for Mike Johnson. I think he's like the poor guy. He's doing such a great job, and he's organizing. He's wrangling these cats, and I just see these women go off in these weird ways. Jasmine Crockett. You're right. Trump should be a little bit more polite, I think, in his dealings. It always blows back on him. People love the fact that he's so frank and he comes out, but whenever he starts insulting people, it always blows back on him. It's really a mistake, but he's right. There's no question that he's right. The woman she's a fake. She puts on different accents for different people. She's and she's just a dimwit. She's just a dimwit. And I did like her crying sentimentally because she loves Texas so much when she announced her candidacy. It also was one of the saddest little gatherings of people meant to sort of, be enthusiastic and encouraging. So I think the Republicans have guessed right on this one, that she was the one to back. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be a disaster for them. But, again, this is one of those techniques that you always admire it when it works, but it can go bad on you.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't think there's a lot of danger of that in Texas. But to your point about the loons, especially the female loons in Congress, there's a Representative Haley Stevens She's from Michigan's 11th district, and she just tweeted out, is today the 10th? Today, she tweeted out, "Today I formally introduced articles of impeachment against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has turned his back on science and the safety of the American people. Michiganders cannot take another day of this chaos." And here is Haley Stevens during COVID, just in case you're wondering who the hell this woman is. Watch this.
I yield the gentlelady 30 additional seconds.
The gentlewoman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Cause of their servitude, sharing in the profession with those who have not come before you. Similar times of trying medical need, wars and flus past. You will see darkness.
Latex.
You will be pushed, and our society needs you to stand together at this time. Our country loves you. To our doctors and our nurses, I wear these latex.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Maryland is reserves.
She's having herself a normal one.
It's like, who are these people, and how did they get elected? You know, I remember Rush Limbaugh once saying that he wasn't afraid for America because Barack Obama was reelected. He was afraid for America because people would reelect him. He was afraid of the fact that the people would fall for that.
Yes.
And you know, I feel this way about these people. Who votes for them? Who votes for them? I see all this stuff online.
Michiganders. They're the same people who voted for Alyssa Slotkin. You've let us all down. Just want you to know that. All right, no, not done. Right. Let's check in on Ilhan Omar. Trump had a rally yesterday in Pennsylvania, and I'm just going to set it up. Here's what Trump had to say about Ilhan Omar yesterday in SOT 17.
I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, does nothing but bitch. She comes from a country where, I mean, it's considered about the worst country in the world. They police themselves. They kill each other all the time. I love it. She comes to our country, and she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother. Can you imagine if Donald Trump married his sister? Beautiful. She's a beautiful person. She should get the hell out. Throw her the hell out. She does nothing but complain.
Guy is the funniest. He is the funniest president since Lincoln. He may be funnier than Lincoln. He is a really funny president.
He was kicking off his affordability tour, trying to message to people and get them more enthusiastic about what he's done so far. But this is so funny, Andrew, and like no quarter for Ilhan Omar, who is one of his chief antagonists, and what a lucky break that's been for Trump. Now let's check in on Ilhan Omar and see what she's in the news for. Well, it happens to be comments she made just last year, 2024, where, let's see, okay, hold on. She was in a rant to her fellow Somalis, okay? Ambassador Rhoda J. Elmi, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for Somaliland, a region along the Gulf of Aden that broke away from Somalia in 1991, shared a clip of comments Omar made in Minneapolis over this weekend in 2024 with a translation that Omar has since disputed. But according to this Elmi, whose translation is consistent with quotations in a resolution that's now taking aim at Ilhan Omar, Omar said the U.S. government, quote, will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. We have now put an English voiceover on the soundbite. Right? Do we have that, Deb? And we're following the translation from this Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for Somaliland, Ambassador Rhoda Elmi. Take a listen.
My answer to Somalians was that the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. We Somalians must have that confidence in ourselves that we call for the shots in the U.S. We live in the U.S., pay taxes in the U.S., and have a real voice. U.S. is a country where one of your daughters is in Congress to represent your interest. As long as I am in the U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. The U.S. would not dare to support anyone against Somalia to steal our land or oceans. Sleep in comfort, knowing I am here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system.
So Elon Musk is calling this treason. It's pretty on the nose. I mean, we're having a robust debate in this country these days about whether it's acceptable to have loyalty to another country before the United States as an American citizen. We don't do it in the context of Somalia that much, but I think someone needs to check in on Ilhan Omar and her loyalties.
Yeah, well, definitely. I can just see the American troops being dispatched to the border of Ethiopia to protect the water rights of Somalia. I just don't think that's going to happen somehow.
She tells them what to do.
Yeah, that's right. She's in charge. You know, Trump is absolutely right about her. I believe, I can't prove it, but I believe she came into the country illegally and committed a crime in marrying her brother. I think she is as disloyal a person and as ungrateful a person as I have ever seen. You know, all of these guys strike me as incredibly ungrateful. This country gives people everything. It gives you everything you need to succeed. It gives you, all kinds of gifts that we shower on people that are taken. The money, tax money comes from other people who worked to earn it that is now being taken away from them and given to you. And he's right. Trump is right about this. He's 100% right. All they do is bitch and moan. All they do is complain. And I mean, I feel this way, I will say it. I feel this way about the American blacks who think that they should be given some kind of, repayment for slavery, a state that they were never, ever in, and a state that no one ever
Or Jasmine Crockett thinks that they should
not pay taxes.
Have to pay taxes.
I know. They should not pay taxes because they were not because they were held slaves, but because someone with their same skin color was held slaves. And I mean, I just think like
with whom they have probably zero genetic link or descendancy
none,
at all.
And I just think, God, gratitude is good for you. It's like never mind the country which has earned their gratitude, but it's good for you. When you wake up in the morning and you're thankful that you're here and you're thankful that there are a lot of places you could be born, like Somalia, where you wouldn't have anything like the chances that you have here. The life here is good. The chances here are good. Just a little bit of gratitude would make their lives better. It would make Minnesota better. I mean, Trump is absolutely right about this. And when Trump attacked them and he said, some of these people are garbage, they were saying, well, this white supremacist. Look, there's no white supremacy in America. Take a hike. Take a hike. This is the least bigoted country, I have ever been in. And I lived overseas for 7 years. I spent most of the 90s overseas. This is the least bigoted country on the planet. And the complaining and the victimizing, what a victim you are. It's not good for you. It's not good for your people, whoever you see your people to be. It's not good for the country. And if it weren't for the fact that our media is so bloody corrupt, nobody would take it seriously. I mean, everybody wants to be a victim. People get online to be a victim in this country. The one country where you're probably not a victim, where you're just blessed. If you are here, you won the lottery. You won the lottery of life, and you should be thankful every day and work hard to improve your life and the country around you. Trump is 100% right on this. And yeah, he says it in the roughest possible terms, and he's hilarious, but it's just all true. Everything he says about this is true. If all you do is bitch and moan and complain, get out. There's a plane leaving every hour.
I love it. I mean, a note to Ilhan Omar and all the other Somalis here in America. Where they love Somalians?
Yeah.
In Somalia.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yep.
You're going to have no problem with bigotry, racism, this alleged racism that is us. They love Somalians over there. You're going to be surrounded by them. I think you're going to be very happy. Take care and Godspeed. Andrew Klavan, a pleasure, my
Always
friend.
Great to
I
see you,
got to
Megyn.
run,
Thanks
but
a lot.
I love talking to you. All right, to be continued. Up next, Gary Brecka is here to tell you how you can live to 120. This holiday, while others chase the rush, find your calm with Peak, a luxury wellness brand powered by rare plants and cutting-edge ingredients, offering a remedy for the season's hustle. Their science-backed botanicals, minerals, and vitamins support metabolism, immunity, energy, and radiant skin. In this festive season of joy, choose serenity as the ultimate luxury. Peak proudly introduces Sun Goddess Matcha, an organic ceremonial superfood blend crafted from the purest tea leaves. They say it brings a focused boost without jitters or crash. The natural balance of caffeine and calming compounds can keep you centered and alert all day. And they say nutrients in their matcha help curb sugar and hunger cravings, making it easier to stick to your wellness goals. Ready to gift the glow? Unlock 20% off for life for yourself and everyone on your list. Give the gift of glowing health this holiday season. Get started at peaklife.com/Megyn. That's PIQUE life.com/Megyn. Think about December. After all the hustle and bustle, what's the moment you most look forward to? It might be slowing down, cozying up, just being present. And that's why I love Cozy Earth. Their gifts feel more like experiences, helping you recharge long after the holidays. If you are thinking about who deserves a gift that truly helps them relax, your partner, your parents, best friend, or yourself, Cozy Earth has you covered, literally. Their bamboo sheets are the gift of better sleep. Made from viscose from bamboo for an incredibly soft feel, they keep you cozy without overheating. And the Bubble Cuddle Blanket, the ultimate cozy gift, with its textured bubble design and ultra-soft faux fur feel. It's perfect for snuggling by the fire. Every Cozy Earth product comes with a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Head to CozyEarth.com. Use code Megyn for up to 40% off. Just order by December 12th for Christmas delivery. After the 12th, my code Megyn still works year-round for 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about Cozy Earth from this show. If you are into the health and wellness space online, a name that's been hard to miss is Gary Brecka. He's a human biologist and founder of The Ultimate Human, which describes itself as a movement designed to help you feel better, look better, and live longer naturally. He has millions of followers on social media and a hit podcast, and UFC CEO Dana White credits Brecka for transforming his life. After a blood test estimated Dana White only had 10 years to live. You can see on the screen the changes in his physique. Look at that White posted on Instagram. And here he is on Brecka's podcast. Watch.
My life is exactly the same now as it was, a year and a half ago before I met you, except for the fact that I feel incredible every day. I'm way more productive. When you said, give me 10 weeks, by the time I was in 10, 11, 12 weeks, whatever it was, I started to feel like I was in my 30s again. And no bullshit, I feel like I'm in my 20s now. I swear to God, I do.
Say that.
I quit drinking in January. So now I don't drink. I'm doing the superhuman protocol. I'm on the whole program that you have me on. And I tell everybody, I try to tell as many people as possible how incredible this is and that, everything can be turned around. You just need guidance and you need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And you're the guy.
Great. Let's do this thing. Gary Brecka is my guest now. Tell me everything, Gary.
Yeah, tell me everything. Well, what a great journey I had with Dana White, man. He's been an incredible part of my journey. That was going over 2 years ago, and he hasn't gone back. He's still off all of his pharmaceuticals, off all his cardiovascular medication, off his medication for tinnitus.
Wow.
Yeah, he's still not on back on a sleep PAP machine. He was on a CPAP machine at night. So he is drug and free of all of those devices.
So where do you begin? Because I read your 8 tips, like the general, we can go through them, but they make a lot of sense. The sleep, make sure it's regular, make sure it's regimented, lower the temperature to 68 degrees. I got that. That's a good one. Walk, eat whole foods, only stuff your great grandmother would eat. I love all that. But what is there something special in the formula that takes you from on the CPAP machine and all these drugs to Dana White? I feel like I'm in my 20s.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what's on that. So, we need to start with the basics, right? We know this from Blue Zone studies. We know this from the big data that if you don't master your sleep, if you don't eat a whole food diet, which is a diet absent of processed food, and if you don't make exercise non-negotiable, basically nothing else matters. We can't really sleep our way around a poor diet, and we can't exercise our way around not sleeping. And again, we know this from big data, from Blue Zone studies. There's no continuity between diets. Meaning, if you look at the areas of the world where people are living the longest, healthiest, happiest lives, it's not because of the carnivore diet or the keto diet or paleo or pescatarian or vegan or vegetarian. It's because they are eating no processed food. And all of us can do that. All of us can switch to a whole food diet. The other non-negotiable is bringing your attention to your sleep. A few years ago, I actually decided that I would schedule all of my meetings and travel around sleep and exercise. And I can't tell you what a demonstrative change in my life that made. So that's one of the things that I incorporate into clients of mine into their schedule. I really try to fix their sleep. And then finally, making mobility non-negotiable. We know that sitting is the new smoking. I mean, sedentary lifestyle is the leading cause of all-cause mortality. And this is entirely fixable. And so if you were to draw your attention to three things, I would say whole food diet, master your sleep, and make mobility non-negotiable. And a lot of people don't focus on those three things, and then they want the magic pill. Is it NAD IVs? Is it nicotinamide riboside? Is it ashwagandha, St. John's wort, CoQ10? Is it any of these magic supplements? And it's not. It's those three basics. And then after that, I truly believe that if you really want to embark on a sincere health journey, you need to supplement for deficiency, not the sake of supplementing. The worst thing you can do is get on Google and start Googling around about what is a good supplement. And this is where most people get lost, because you can make an argument for just about anything. So the question is, what does your body need? And we believe this in plant physiology. So if you were to take a leaf, let's say, that was rotting in a palm tree, and you called a true arborist, like a true botanist, out to look at that leaf, they wouldn't even touch the leaf. They would core test the soil. And they would say, you know what, Megyn, there's no nitrogen in this soil. And they would add nitrogen to the soil and the leaf would heal. Well, human beings are no different. When you deprive the human body of certain raw materials, and by raw materials, I'm talking about vitamins, minerals, amino acids, basic nutrients, you get the expression of disease. There's so many of your listeners right now that go to bed tired, but as their environment quiets, their mind wakes up. And they start to ruminate. So they lay there in bed and their mind awake, but their body tired, and they ruminate on things for minutes or hours, and it robs them of deep sleep. And this is very easy to fix. The same thing with, nagging issues like attention deficit disorders, which is not really an attention deficit at all. It's an attention overload disorder. It's too many windows opening in our mind at the same time. And most of us think that we need to fix this by adding amphetamines to our system to race the central nervous system to match the pace of the mind, things like 5-ANs, Ritalin, Adderall. But the truth is we can supplement to quiet the mind. There are gut issues. The vast majority of my clients would have gut issues, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, cramping, bloating, and they couldn't relate it to what they had last eaten because they overlooked the pace of the gut. They look at food allergies and food sensitivities, but they don't know that certain nutrient deficiencies, so for example, a deficiency in something called methylfolate, which is very easy to get over the counter, it's a really inexpensive supplement, can fix gut motility issues, and they can restore the pace of their gut to normal. So now they don't eat the same thing on Monday and they're fine, and they eat the exact same thing on Wednesday and then end up blowing up like a tick. So very often what happens in the human body is we deprive it of certain raw materials. Vitamin D3 is probably the most clinically deficient nutrient in the vast majority of human beings. And if you look at what happens when you just deprive the body of vitamin D3, cholecalciferol, the only vitamin, by the way, that human beings can make on our own, you don't need to eat, you don't need to supplement, you don't need to drink. All you need to do is expose your skin to sunlight. Your body will make it with the cholesterol in your bloodstream. This nutrient is so important for human function that when it's deficient, we get the expression of disease. If you look at the data on COVID, for example, the second leading cause of morbidity in COVID was a clinical deficiency in vitamin D3, not immunosuppressants, not obesity, not type 2 diabetes. It was a clinical deficiency in vitamin D3. And so very often what I'll do is I'll have clients of mine once in their lifetime do a test called a genetic methylation test. What this test does, it's a cheek swab. You swab your cheek, send it into a lab, and what this test will tell you is what nutrients, what raw material can your body convert into the usable form and what can it not? And you supplement for that deficiency. If you want to see magic really happen in human beings, you give their body the raw material it needs to do its job. That's the simple truth.
Now, where can you get one of these tests? Only from Gary Brecka? Or
No,
do you
there
get it
are
online?
lots of places that
who
do.
Who will analyze it for you?
Yeah, there are lots of places that do genetic methylation tests. I mean, I have a genetic methylation test, but I'm not here to sell my test. You want to get a genetic methylation test. The reason why I say methylation is because if you get a full genome sequence, you're going to get paralysis of analysis. You're going to see that you have olive skin and green eyes and detached earlobes, and you can see the distance on your index fingers, and none of that matters, not in terms of what you supplement with. But genes of methylation are genes that take raw materials and convert them into the usable form. So for example, we pull crude oil out of the ground, but you can't put crude oil into your gas tank. And the reason why you can't is because the car doesn't understand that fuel source. But if you take crude oil and you refine it into gasoline, now the car can run. Well, human beings are no different. We take vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, nutrients of all kind. We put them into the body, and then the body converts these into the form it can use. If you can't make this conversion, you have a deficiency. And it is this deficiency that leads to the expression of these diseases. You know, the human genome is specifically designed to not pass on disease. But if you went to your doctor and you had high blood pressure, and they did all kinds of cardiac exams. You know, they did an EKG and an EEG and a dye contrast study and a cardiac catheterization and heart sounds and lung sounds, and they couldn't find anything wrong with your heart. The next thing they'll do is they'll look at your family history and they'll say, oh my gosh, Megyn, your mom's brother and your dad's brother both had high blood pressure. You have familial hypertension or genetically inherited hypertension. And you go, oh, I guess I just lost the genetic lottery. So now I need to make, medication for the rest of my life. And that's patently false. You know, there aren't genes for a lot of these conditions. So they're not passed on the genome. They run in families, but they are not genetic. What we pass from generation to generation very often is not disease. We pass the inability for the body to refine a raw material, which causes a deficiency, which leads to that disease. So very specifically in Dana White's case, he had an impaired ability, he had a gene mutation called MTHFR. I won't tell you what the nickname is for that gene.
Right. Got it.
It stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, just so you know. Not what it looks like. But this gene mutation, 46% of the population has it. So 46% of your listeners have it right now. And what this gene mutation does is it impairs the ability for the body, or blocks the ability for the body to convert folic acid into the form the body can use, called folinic acid or methylfolate. And that doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize that folic acid is the most prevalent nutrient in the human diet. We spray it on all of our grains, grains, pasta, flour, rice, cereals are all sprayed with this chemical called folic acid. And I say chemical because we make it in a laboratory. Most people think that folic acid occurs naturally in nature. It doesn't. You can't find folic acid anywhere on the surface of the earth. We make it in a laboratory. Folate occurs naturally in nature. But we fortify or enrich foods. So if you see a label on a food package that says fortified or enriched, that means it's been sprayed with the chemical folic acid. Well, 46% of the population can't break this compound down. And if you can't break this compound down, it rises. And if you can't convert it into the usable form, methylfolate, you have a deficiency. So what are the consequences of that deficiency? Well, the first consequence is impaired gut motility. You get gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, cramping, and you start down the road of food allergy testing, food sensitivity testing, gut microbiome testing, and nothing works because you haven't addressed the pace of the gut. It also impairs the ability for us to take an amino acid called tryptophan and convert it into the neurotransmitter serotonin. And again, this might not sound like a big deal, but serotonin is the main driver of mood, the main driver of behavior. This is why I've never once in my entire lifetime met a sufferer of anxiety that did not also have gut issues. The two go hand in hand.
Wow.
You don't have anxiety and have good gut motility. You don't have anxiety and not suffer from irritable gut issues. Full stop. And any of your listeners that have anxiety will also go, wow, that's actually true. So why are these two connected? Because they're connected to the same nutrient deficiency. So when you put this raw material back in the human body, you reduce or eliminate the expression of disease. In fact, if you're suffering from anxiety right now, just ask yourself these three questions. Number one, have you had it on and off throughout your entire lifetime? The vast majority of people will say yes. And the reason why they say yes is because it's related to this gene mutation. Can you point to the specific trigger that causes it? The vast majority of people will say no. You know, I don't need to walk to the edge of a 30th floor balcony and be afraid of heights to feel anxiety. I don't need to be claustrophobic and step on a crowded elevator to feel anxiety. I can be sitting at dinner with my family on an otherwise innocuous night, and I can just, all of a sudden just be kind of overwhelmed with anxiety. My heart can start racing. I can start feeling the presence of a fear, even though there's no presence of a fear. And the last question is, if you've tried anti-anxiety medications, did they work? And they'll say no. They made me feel like a zombie. So I had two choices, feel anxiety or feel like a zombie. This is your indication that this is a nutrient deficiency. And this genetic methylation test will spot the gene that's responsible, and you can supplement for its deficiency. So in Dana's case, he had an impaired ability to break down an amino acid called homocysteine. And when you have high blood pressure and they find nothing wrong with your heart, very often it is this amino acid called homocysteine. When it rises in the bloodstream and it's sort of cruising by the inside lining of your arteries, it will irritate your artery. And if you irritate an artery, it will clamp down. And if you make the pipes smaller in a fixed system, the pressure goes up. So if I wanted to drive your blood pressure up right now, Megyn, I would just put compression gear on your legs. If I put compression stocking on both of your legs, your blood pressure would skyrocket. Nothing wrong with your heart. So we have 60.
They put those on me after I gave birth to my children.
Exactly. Not to raise your blood pressure, but to help your circulation.
In the hospital, they make you wear those things.
Yeah. And your blood pressure went up. And if they had taken your blood pressure before and after, they go, oh my gosh, you have hypertension. But you don't. You just have vascular compression, right? I mean, we have 63,000 miles of blood vessel in our body. It does not take much arterial narrowing to drive pressure up. And the other fascinating fact about our circulation is that only 30% of our circulation is done by our heart. Most people think our heart circulates all the blood in our body. It doesn't. It circulates 30% of the blood in your body. So the question is, how does the other 70% circulate? It's venules and capillaries, and it's circulated by an activity called vasomotor. So think of a snake swallowing a mouse. Right? We don't put a garden hose in the snake's mouth and push the mouse along. We actually have a muscular transaction. It's a muscular contraction that pushes the mouse along. This is similar to how 70% of our circulation works. And if you impair that circulation, your pressure rises. And that runs in families, not a gene for hypertension. And we could go on and on. We could talk about thyroid, type 2 diabetes, drug and alcohol addiction, all kinds of things.
But it all starts with that test, which will show you where you're deficient in terms of your genes. And some of these genetic deficiencies can be made up with just like over-the-counter supplements?
Over-the-counter supplements. Simple supplementation that your body's deficient in. Back to the plant example. If you didn't find the nitrogen missing in the soil, nothing else would have mattered. So people try to supplement around this deficiency. They go, well, my aunt takes NAD, which is great. And so is ashwagandha, and so is St. John's wort, and so is CoQ10, and so is resveratrol, and so are all of these supplements. Each of them has a role. The question is, what does your body need? And if you don't have data, you're just guessing. And this is why some people find a magic bullet with a certain supplement, and some people have no effect at all. And so once you know.
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Once you know what to supplement with, I'm telling you, magic happens in human beings. The vast majority of people.
Does it matter? It does matter, right? Where you get the supplements from? Because, you can go on Amazon and just order the stuff from anywhere. You don't know who's making it.
Yeah, this is true. Sadly, the supplement industry is kind of like the wild, wild west. If you go to my website, theultimatehuman.com, I'll tell you a lot of the supplements that I endorse. I'm not here to sell my supplements.
Oh, that's good.
Most of them are not even mine.
No, but that's helpful.
But I like to direct people to places where they can trust supplement labels and supplement manufacturers. You can also get the test there.
I want to jump back to something you said earlier, because this is important, and I don't have you forever. I wish I did.
Yeah.
D3. I know one of your recommendations is get out there first thing in the morning and walk for 30 minutes. In response to which I thought, he does not live where I live. You've got to be a Californian, right? Or you're Arizona or Southwest.
I'm in Miami.
We must be. Yeah, okay. Because nobody in the Northeast or the Midwest talks like this. Right. We all know that's an impossibility. Only the insane people are doing that. It's dangerous. It's dark. It's highly unpleasant. And there really is no sun.
It's highly unpleasant.
At that hour of the morning. Anyway, yeah, it's like there's nothing good about it. So for those of us who are in the Four Seasons areas of the country, how do we get our vitamin D? It's not going to happen at 6 in the morning where there is no sun and it's like 5 degrees out, but I accept that it's important. And so can you get it done in 30 minutes in a cold weather environment, considering that you have to wear like a lot of clothes to be out there? And B, does it matter what time of day you do it?
So I would be supplementing with, in one of those colder climates, with 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3. It's called cholecalciferol, vitamin D3, and make sure that it contains something called K2, because vitamin D3 is such a magic nutrient in the human body. It acts like a hormone sometimes. It acts like a vitamin sometimes. It's a calcium transport molecule. And if you want the calcium to deposit into the bone and not into the arterial wall, you add vitamin K2. So most good manufacturers, you can tell a really good vitamin D3 by the fact that it is compounded with something called K2. That is a really good manufacturer. You want to take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 daily, very safe, to raise your vitamin D3 level. There is correlated risks, even causal risks, between low vitamin D3 and increased incidence of breast cancer in women. There are plenty of clinical trials on this. So it's one of the easiest things to supplement with, and it's one of the most game-changing nutrients you can put in the human body. You know, I got asked on a podcast the other day, what is the single most important nutrient in the human body? And it's really hard to pinpoint one. But if you think about the fact that vitamin D3 is the only nutrient that human beings make on our own. It's the only vitamin we make on our own. So if I was to test your blood right now, or the blood of any of your listeners, there'd be hundreds of vitamins in their bloodstream. You're only capable of making one. So when God made us, he made us with the ability to make a single vitamin. So how important do you think that is to human function? So we make it from sunlight and cholesterol. You don't need to eat, you don't need to drink, you don't need to supplement. If you expose your skin to sunlight and have cholesterol in your bloodstream, your body will make vitamin D3. What's really fascinating about it is about 85% of the world is clinically deficient in vitamin D3, and it's very easy to supplement with.
Wow. I'm thinking about my friends in Scandinavia who, right this time of year, have like 3 hours of sunlight and are desperately in need of this. And I think, if memory serves, they told me when I was over there, the government will provide that vitamin for you free of charge.
There's an indication of how important it is, right? Because they know that's going to keep people out of the healthcare system. We developed all kinds of fallacies around this. Have you ever heard of going out and catching a cold in the winter? Okay, well, that's a complete fallacy. My mom used to say it to me all the time. Don't go outside without a jacket. You'll catch a cold. There's no such thing as catching a cold. The reason why people get sick more often in cold weather is because when it's cold, we layer up. And when we layer up, we get less sun. When we get less sun, our vitamin D3 drops. And when our vitamin D3 drops, our immune system is compromised. So our immune system is compromised by the cold weather. It is actually less risky to go outside during cold weather than it is to go outside in Miami, because there's a lot more pathogens at 85 degrees than there are at 15 degrees. You know, there's not a lot of bacteria lying around on your frozen car window, but there's a lot of bacteria lying on handrails.
Well, can you do, like, if you live in a cold environment, like let's say you go skiing, you know, these days you're covered head to toe while you ski. There's not a single inch of skin that shows. But then let's say you sit outside for lunch because it's warm enough that you can do that. Can you sit there in the sun for half an hour, just your face showing, and get the vitamin D you need?
Yeah, your face and your hands, sometimes your arms. I mean, you know, some of these ski resorts, if there's not a lot of wind blowing and you're at high altitude, the UV index is high, you can actually just take your jacket off and expose your arms and your skin to sunlight for a few minutes, maybe 15, 18 minutes. That's enough to start generating some vitamin D3. But in those cases, just supplement with vitamin D3. Supplement with cholecalciferol.
Okay, there's no downside.
Yeah, there's no downside.
All right, let's talk about exercise, because that, you know, tougher for some than for others. What's the core? What's the basics?
The core is
what do we need to do?
I think that the most overlooked exercise in all of humanity is walking. You know, walking is specifically designed to move our lymphatic system. And the reason why exercise is so tied to a reduction in all-cause mortality is that it's not just about mobility, it's about detoxification. So we have a lymphatic system in our body. You know, our lymph nodes that swell when we get a sore throat. Well, these are all throughout our body, and it's the waste elimination side of our system. And there's no pressure in this system. The heart is not pumping lymphatic fluid. What circulates lymphatic fluid is muscular contraction. And walking is specifically designed to move lymphatic fluid. So if you looked at Blue Zone, for example, why were the two non-negotiables sense of community and purpose and mobility into later in life? Because those people were regularly detoxifying themselves. So I say walking is good. Walking outside is better. Walking outside with a weighted vest is best. So if you only have 20 minutes or 30 minutes in the morning and you can walk on a treadmill, that's great. If you can actually get outside, that's even better. And if you can get outside and zip on a weighted vest, I use one called an ion vest, and you can zip on a weighted vest, you will compress the amount of time and you'll get more for less. So These weighted.
What does the weighted vest do?
So the weighted vest adds weight to the body, and it usually distributes it the same way that you would gain weight. But what it does is it puts more strain on your muscles. It increases your heart rate and improves your metabolism. The compression helps with your circulation. So in that same 20 or 30-minute period, you're getting about 40 to 50% more out of that same effort than you would if you weren't walking without weight. When you tell the body that you're gaining weight, it elevates your metabolism to peel that weight off. So people that are concerned about weight loss, if you start exercising with a weighted vest, you'll get a whole lot more out of that time frame of exercise than if you did it non-weighted.
It's probably good for your old lady bones too, right?
Oh,
like
it's
for
great
women
for
who
your
are worried
bones.
about osteoporosis.
Yeah, can we talk about osteoporosis for a minute? Because so many people think
Yeah.
that osteoporosis is related to a deficiency in calcium, and that's just not true. Most people think that our bones are calcium. That's also not true. Our bones are calcium combined with something called phosphorus. These two form something called hydroxyapatite. So our bones are hydroxyapatite. In order for calcium and phosphorus to bind and form hydroxyapatite, you need 12 minerals. And if you're missing any one of these 12 minerals, your bones don't harden. And this is why if you go to assisted care living facilities all over the world, you'll find elderly men and women that have osteopenia or osteoporosis, and they've been on calcium supplements for 20 years. Calcium is not the answer. Minerals are the answer. Every morning that I wake up, I take a mineral salt. It's a cheap mineral salt. You can use any mineral salt you want. I use one called Baja Gold, and I add this mineral salt to my drinking water because it has all 91 trace minerals. So in the morning, if you hydrate, you add a mineral salt.
You put like a teaspoon in there?
I put about a half a teaspoon of this Baja Gold mineral salt. And what will happen is that only 75% of that crystal is sodium. The rest of it is all minerals like molybdenum, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, iodine. All of these minerals that should come from our soil, but unfortunately our soil is depleted. So you add a mineral salt to your drinking water. I also add a hydrogen tablet and an amino acid. And then you just whack that back. So you hydrate and mineralize first thing in the morning. And then if you apply a load, your bones will strengthen. Calcium and phosphorus will form hydroxyapatite and you'll strengthen your bones. If you just take calcium supplements, very likely that calcium will end up in the arterial wall, not in your bones. And then if you exercise and add a load, this is what calls the bone to want to harden, to ossify. And so weighted exercise is one of the best things that you can do to extend your health span and extend your lifespan.
It makes sense too, because if you think about these blue zone communities, like in Japan, they're not going on the Stairmaster or the treadmill. They're walking.
They're not counting calories. They don't know what a
fishing.
macro is. They're not weighing their food. They're not worrying about whether they're carnivore or paleo or vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian.
Same thing in Italy.
Yeah.
There are no gyms in Italy. Good luck finding a gym.
Yeah.
They don't exist. That's not how they live.
In fact, in Sardinia, where they had hypercentenarianism, the life expectancy was directly related to the grade of the slope they walked up. So you've got elderly men and women walking up 20-degree slopes, 10 blocks to go to church, 4 blocks over to the market, and 6 blocks back home on the regular. There aren't elevators. By the way, there aren't assisted care living facilities in these zones. Assisted care living is mom and dad move back in with the kids until the day that they die. And why is that so important? Because community, connection, and sense of purpose truly feed our cellular biology. And we are one of the most disconnected societies in modern history. We think that connection comes through social media or our digital media, and it doesn't. Connection comes from true connection with other human beings. In fact, there's something called broken heart syndrome. We've all experienced this in our families, either a relative or grandparent that's been married 40, 50 years, maybe 60 years. When one spouse passes, how quickly does the other spouse go? And nothing's happened to them. But this is the first time that they've been put in isolation. We knew in the mortality space, if you wanted to cut a human being's life expectancy in half, and I mean in half, at any age, you put them in isolation. And so when you've been married for 30 or 40 or 50 years and a spouse passes away, it's the immediate isolation that causes the detrimental effect. And we are, as a society, becoming increasingly more isolated because connection doesn't come through social media, it doesn't come through our digital devices. It comes from real community and connection with other human beings. This is why I preach about faith being medicine. Community is medicine. Connection is medicine. So prayer actually has a medicinal benefit. So does community, family, connection. And as we get more disconnected, our cellular biology bathes in a toxic soup inflammation. And so, by getting back to the basics, this is where we really can extend life.
I love all of this. I have to ask you a quick question. We only have 2 minutes left.
Sure.
Can we eat bread or can't we?
I prefer sourdough bread. Here's the thing about bread. So really quick.
Yes.
Most bread is fortified.
So tell me the truth. Can I have a slice of sourdough bread here?
Oh, sourdough, all you want. With all the butter you want, by the way. We need to stop blaming the butter for what the bread did. Just the fortified or enriched bread. No. Sourdough, absolutely yes.
That's great.
That was probably worth the whole show right there.
Whole hour. Can we just not end this, but call it TB continued? Because there's so much more. You're such a wealth of information. This is why everybody loves you. This is why everybody said, when is Gary coming on?
Thank you. I'd love to be back on. I'd love to cover any of these topics.
Awesome. This is so helpful. And is there a book? Do you have a book? Is this written down, or we just go to your website, The Ultimate Human?
I did write a book. It'll be published in the first quarter of next year on genetic methylation, by the way. But you can go to theultimatehuman.com. I have a VIP group there where I do private Q&As. You can ask me anything. I have a Gary AI that you can download. You can feed it labs. You can feed it genetic testing. You can ask it questions about supplements. You can ask it questions about diet. It'll write a diet plan for you if you want.
All right.
So lots of resources there.
We are all doing all of that. We're about to crash your website. And please put us on your book tour when that book comes out next year. We'd love to host you, but let's not wait that long. Gary Brecka, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your expertise.
You're welcome, Megyn. Can't wait to be back on.
Likewise. Wow, that was so interesting. There was so much good news in there, you guys. Like high blood pressure, how many people are dealing with that? And the thing about the calcium, I'm taking calcium. I didn't know that. I definitely don't want it going to my arteries. But all of us have like more traditional doctors, right? So nobody thinks about this kind of thing. I'm ready to reevaluate everything. I'll see you over on theultimatehuman.com. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Tomorrow we've got our friends from Real Clear Politics and special appearance by Doug Brunt. We'll see you then.